that politics can create a bias toward borrowing too much. Politics can make it tempting to put off the day of reckoning and leave the necessary debt consolidation for another day.
Dr. Eichengreen, let's get back to your book In Defense of Public Debt. So let's make the case for public debt. What are the good uses of public debt?
Well, I think public debt is a critically important resource for meeting emergencies, uh, wars, pandemics, energy crises like Europe experienced in 2022. And in addition, borrowing now in order to invest in productive infrastructure that yields a stream of returns over time, out of which the borrowed money can be paid back, productive infrastructure that boosts the denominator of the debt to GDP ratio. Borrowing for purposes of investing in that can be a good thing as well. So when we see countries participating in China's Belt and Road program, the question is always, are these infrastructure investments productive or not? Or to the contrary, are they empty airports, as in the case of Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
railways that go from no place to nowhere, as in the case of Kenya? Which infrastructure projects are productive?
And those countries are running into a lot of trouble with China on their servicing their debts. So you talked about meeting emergencies and infrastructure. What you didn't identify in good uses of public debt, and I'm not saying you were excluding, I'm just saying what you identified and what you didn't, is things like Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, and gosh, a litany of entitlement programs.
Yeah, so I think ongoing expenditures like that have to be paid for by ongoing revenues and borrowing in order to meet them indefinitely into the future is a very serious problem. So I've sounded relatively sanguine about the public debt outlook for the last hour. The book is called In Defense of Public Debt, but
Yeah.
I share the worries that other people have voiced. There was editorial last week in the New York Times. There is a column today as we speak in the Financial Times warning that entitlement programs are underfunded, and
Yeah.
borrowing in order to make transfer payments and meet Social Security payments and Medicare and Medicaid outlays will not be sustainable over the long run. So the solution to that, there's never a simple solution, but it's multifaceted. Number one, I think some of those programs ought to be means tested. Why are we making Social Security payments to millionaires who have plenty of savings on the basis of which they can retire? That's the argument for means testing. And this comment will not make me popular in most circles. The United States is a relatively lightly taxed economy by advanced country standards. And we could use a value-added tax or a billionaire's tax or a wealth tax to boost revenues and pay for those programs as well.
A couple of comments. One, the New York Times editorial board piece that you're referring to, I think even mentions your book In Defense of Public Debt. That's one. The second thing is everything that you recommended flies in the face of politics, right?
Well, that's the critical issue for public debt management through the ages, that politics can create a bias toward borrowing too much. Politics can make it tempting to put off the day of reckoning and leave the necessary debt consolidation for another day. And the more polarized and fractionalized your politics, the more difficult it is to get your arms around these problems.
And some entitlement programs may make a lot of sense because they appeal to wider swath of voters, which goes back to a couple of segments ago when we were talking about democracy, may actually create blow to your debt. I don't want to use the term welfare state because that just has so many political sort of meanings. Thank you so much, Dr. Eichengreen. Thank you for educating me and our listeners. And to our listeners, if you know of any history that could provide more perspective from the past on this subject, please share it with us and tell us what's your perspective. Thanks very much.
Thank you. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.